Hello everyone, welcome to Anytime Yoga. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the UPA, Universal Principle of Alignment, organic energy. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but it's more refinement. So we've already learned about open to grace, muscle energy. Those are the two that we think about the most as we are setting our foundation, hugging skin to muscle to bone, hugging into midline. And then last time we talked about inner outer spiral, refining our movement, refining each stance. And then organic energy, also known as active expansion, is kind of thought as the opposite of muscle energy, right? Muscle energy, we're hugging in. Organic energy, we're releasing out. Okay, so you can think of this physically, spiritually. I like to have this image of a pebble where you have this little pebble and you throw it into this pristine lake, right? The lake is just smooth water, and when the pebble hits the water, it creates these ripples that go back out. Yet, it's still water. The water doesn't change. It doesn't release its energy. It doesn't go away, right? It just changes its form a little bit, sending energy out through the ripples. So through open to grace, through muscle energy, through refinement of our inner outer spiral, we've created a safe, aligned pose. And once we're safe and aligned, we're hugging in and we start noticing where can we soften the boundaries in our body, where do we need to access that strength inside of us, inside of each of us, where can we then release the energy back out? So as we're in warrior two arms, we're hugging in, we're strong, 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 and then soften the boundaries and release energy out. I think of it almost more of a mindset of what can I release, what can I let go in this moment, what do I not need in this moment to find peace, to find hope, to offer myself love and compassion in that moment, even when it's a challenging pose, even when it's a challenging moment off the mat. So organic energy, some languaging around it. We expand physically and spiritually into our peak asana pose. And the peak asana pose is going to look different for each of us. Our bodies are different. We can move into the poses in different ways. And we're going to choose different bus stops along the way that best fits who we are in that moment. So my peak pose of like Bird of Paradise is going to be a different bus stop than your peak pose of Bird of Paradise. The directions of organic energy flows from the focal point out to periphery along the core lines. That's opposite muscle energy. It expands away from the midline, and it expands from core lines to surface of extremities, right? So rather than hugging in skin to muscle to bone, it's going back out from bone to muscle to skin. So maybe one of those descriptions lands well with you, and you can think about that as we're moving through our sequences, remembering that opening to grace is first. We're setting our foundation. Where is your foundation today? Then muscle energy, hugging in to midline. Then comes the refinement of inner outer spiral and playing with the idea of organic energy. So let's jump into our sequence today. Go ahead and find a comfortable seated pose, either kneeling over a block, seated over a blanket, pillows, root down with your sits bones, strong core, long spine, hands facing down for more groundedness or up for more openness. Shine bright through the crown of your head. Close your eyes or lower your gaze and begin to notice your breath. Invite your breath past your throat, past your heart, deep into your belly. Letting your belly expand and contract with each inhalation and exhalation. I invite you to check in with yourself and check in with your heart, your body, and your mind, noticing with curiosity, acknowledging without judgment. I invite you to set an intention, a word or a phrase that brings you self-compassion, kindness, reminds you of your brightness, whether you are on your mat or off your mat. On your next inhalation, raise your hands above your head, meeting your palms together, exhaling your hands to your heart. Let's begin this practice with one Om, joining our voices together. Take a deep inhale. Exhale HA, and inhale for Om. Gently release your hands, softly blink open your eyes, roll your shoulders, turn your head side to side. And coming back to center, inhale your hands above your head. Exhale, twist over to your left. Lengthen through your spine, turn your chin toward your shoulder. Breathing deeply. And back to center. And over to your right. And back to center, over to your left again. Take a deep inhale and exhale. And back to center and right side one more time. Breathing deeply. And back to center. Exhale your hands to your heart. Transition to tabletop pose. Use whatever props you would like. Root your hands into your mat. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Set your foundation, then begin to move through cat-cow, flowing with your breath. Warming up your joints, waking up your spine. Transition to any variation that would feel good for you. Maybe moving side to side, looking back at your hip. Maybe sinking your hips back toward your heels, creating even more movement. Listen to your body. Notice what would feel best for you in this moment. Meeting back at neutral spine, root down. Bring your forearms down to your mat, root down, draw your left elbow skyward, extend your fingertips towards the sky, open through your heart, and second side. Move side to side, flowing with your breath. One more time on each side. And then meet back in tabletop pose. Grab your blocks. Have one on each side. You can be at whatever height you'd like. Come back to tabletop pose. Let's move a little bit through bird dog and then bird dog straight into standing. So root down, shoulder blades on your spine. Extend your right arm out in front of you, your left leg back behind you. Notice that your hips are even, that you're not opening up or raising your heel too high, pointing your toes toward your mat. Strong core, extend out, then hug back into midline. And then switch sides. Left arm extends forward, right leg back, hug in to midline. And then in this moment, as you set your foundation, you've hugged into midline, activating your muscle energy, noticing, refining based on the balance of inner and outer spiral. Then think about organic energy. What energy can you release back out? And lower down. First side again. Thinking through your UPAs, thinking through your alignment. And second side one more time. Where can you soften? And lower down. This time, release your right arm forward, left arm back. Bring your right hand back to your mat. Draw your knee to your nose. Root your left foot between your hands. You can do this with or without your blocks. I'm going to use my blocks, rooting my fingertips into my blocks, rooting down with my left leg, rising up, bringing my right knee high, taking a step if I need an extra step, extra support. Hands at heart center. And then stepping back. Bird dog. Let's do that again 2 more times. Rooting down to rise up. High knee. Stepping back. Bird dog. 1 more time. Rooting down. Rising up. High knee. Then from high knee, transition to tree pose. Choose your bus stop. Your foot can be at your ankle or at your calf, or skip over your knee, bringing your foot into your upper inner left leg. Rooting your foot into your leg back into your foot, shoulder blades on your spine, hugging in, softening where you can soften, then release your organic energy out, sending your brightness to those around you. Gently release your hands back to your heart center, high knee, and step back, meeting in tabletop pose. Second side, left arm extends out in front of you, right leg back behind you. Lower your left hand back to your mat. Knee to nose, root your right foot between your hands. Root down to rise up into high knee. And step back. Bird dog. Extend your right leg back behind you. Root down, rise up, high knee. Hugging in, rooting into your foundation. And step back. Extend your right leg back behind you, bird dog. And one more time, root down to rise up, high knee. And transition into tree pose, second side. Notice how second side might feel different. Maybe you'll be at a different bus stop. And at any point, grow your branches, turn your gaze skyward. Then gently release your hands, release your foot into high knee, step back, root down, tabletop pose. Nice work, everyone. You can set your blocks back down. Come back to tabletop pose, root down. Walk your hands out in front of you, spider fingers, into puppy pose. Soften your heart toward your mat. Draw your lower ribs back toward your spine. Soften your heart again. Breathing deeply. And inhale, rise. Walk your spider fingers off your mat to your right. Softening your heart. Lengthening through your side bodies. Side puppy. And back to center. Exhale over to your second side. Over to your left. And back to center. Root your hands out in front of you. Draw your chest forward. Modified chaturanga. You can move and flow with your own breath or follow along. Shoulder blades on your spine. Strong core. As you lower, keep your elbows beside your ribs. Chest, then hips. Root the tops of your feet into your mat. Shoulder blades on your spine. Strong core. Inhale. Rise up into cobra. Letting your hands come off your mat just a wee bit. And lower back down, root down, get strong, rise up, and meet back into puppy pose. Let's do that again. Root down, draw your chest forward, lower down, inhale, variation of cobra, spider fingers on the sides of your mat, root down to rise up. And exhale, lower back down, root down to rise up and sink back into puppy. One more time. Root down, draw your chest forward, lower to your mat. Cobra variation of your choice. And then lower back down, root down, rise up, and sink back into puppy. Inhale your chest forward again. Lift your knees off your mat into full plank and meet in downward facing dog. Take a breath here. Walk your dog out, bending your knees, moving your hips side to side. And then meet back in neutral. Inhale your right leg high. Draw your knee to your nose. Root your hand between your hands before rising up into crescent lunge. Flow with your breath. Cactus arms. Notice your alignment. Exhale your hands to your heart and breathe deeply. From crescent lunge, we'll move into warrior one. Stepping your back foot forward just a wee bit. Your back foot is at a 45-degree angle. Your hips are moving in the same direction. So we're not open like warrior two. We're closed in warrior one. Scissoring your legs together. Pause in warrior one before we flow into warrior three and into temple. Rooting down, root into your front foot. Draw your chest forward, lift your left leg up high. Drawing your heel towards the sky, shoulder blades on your spine, strong core, hug into midline, rooting into your foundation, and then draw your knee high and sit into temple, left ankle over right knee. Breathe deeply here. Inhale, rise up into high knee. Before moving back to warrior three, we're going to go into standing splits. So, step your left leg back as if you're going into warrior three, then lower your hands down to your mat or grab your block, bringing your hands down to your block. Left leg goes as high as you want, noticing your body, noticing where your body pauses. Then rise up into warrior three. If you step out of splits first, that's okay. Root back down. Step back into warrior three. Shoulder blades on your spine. And then step into warrior one. Inhale into crescent lunge, and exhale your hands all the way down to your mat. Step back, three-legged dog. Bend your lifted knee, open through your hips, scorpion dog. Lower your foot to your mat. Yogi's choice, move through chaturanga, child's pose, or stay in downward facing dog. Meeting back in downward facing dog. Inhale your left leg high, second side, draw your knee to your nose, lower your foot between your hands, root down to rise up into crescent lunge, flow through cactus arms, and exhale your hands to your heart, step your back foot forward a wee bit into warrior one, back foot at a 45-degree angle, scissor your legs together. Root down in warrior one before moving into warrior three, drawing your chest forward, lifting your right foot high and back behind you, shoulder blades on your spine, hugging in. Keep your toes engaged, and draw your knee high, high knee, and temple. Set your right ankle over your left knee. Engage your toes, drawing your toes toward your right shin. Breathe deeply here. As you rise up into high knee, transition into standing splits, hands to your mat or to your block, lifting your right foot high. Breathing deeply. Then transition to warrior three. It's okay if you take a step in between. And back into warrior one. Root down. Transition to crescent lunge, up onto your tippy toe, and exhale your hands down to your mat, setting your block to the side. Three-legged dog, left leg high above your head. Bend your lifted knee, open through your hips, scorpion dog. And lower your foot to your mat. Downward facing dog. Notice your alignment in down dog. Then bend your knees as much as you can. Look at the top of your mat. Hop or step to the top of your mat. Forward fold. Drape your upper body over your lower body. Grasp your elbows with your opposite hands. Nodding your head yes, shaking your head no. Nodding your head yes again. Releasing your head and your neck. Forward fold. Then inhale, halfway lift, using your block to extend your arms to your mat, shoulder blades on your spine, long back, and exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reverse your swan dive, rooting down to rise up, meeting your palms together, clasping your hands, micro back bend, back to center, crescent over to your right, rooting your left foot into your mat. Crescent to your left, rooting your right foot into your mat. And back to center. Exhale your hands to your heart. Pause here. Or bring your hands to your hips. Or bring your hands beside your hips, palms facing forward. Check your alignment of Tadasana, mountain pose. Toes pointed forward, parallel like train tracks. Draw your hips back. Root down. Shine bright through the crown of your head. Close your eyes or lower your gaze. And return to your intention. Offer your intention to yourself in this moment and that same intention to those around you. offering your intention with kindness and compassion, encouragement, and brightness. Place your right hand on your belly, left hand on your heart. Take 3 breaths, feeling your breath throughout your body. Feeling each inhalation and exhalation. Gently release your hands, softly blink open your eyes. Let's transition straight into chair pose. So check your alignment, root down. Another option or variation of chair pose is rather than having your feet hip distance apart, you can bring your feet together, big toe to big toe. And this is the traditional stance. So if you want to play with something different this morning or this afternoon or evening, whenever you're doing this, bring your toes together. Root down, get strong in your legs, hug into your midline. Inhale your hands high, and exhale, sit deep into chair pose. Shoulder blades on your spine, hands can be at your heart center, extended out above your head, or open your hands wide, extending your arms out to the side. Sink a little deeper into your chair pose, trust your strength. It's okay if you wobble, it's okay if you shake. Hugging in, think shins in, knees wide. Then release your hands behind your hips, root down to rise up slowly, slowly, slowly. Open through your heart. And exhale, flow back into your chair. Hands behind your hips. Flow with your breath. Moving intentionally. Remembering to breathe. Notice where you can soften. One more time, rising up. Open through your heart. And sit back in chair pose. Pause in chair. Rooting down, stay active through your legs, through your core. Soften through your eyes, through your jaw. Sit a little deeper, trust your strength. Sit a little deeper. And forward fold. Beautiful. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise up, vertebrae by vertebrae. Slowly, all the way to standing. And pause. Come into wide leg stance, toes pointed toward the corners of the long edge of your mat. We're moving into goddess pose. Root down, bend your knees so that your knees are moving in the same direction as your toes. Open your arms, draw your hands skyward, and then exhale, bend your elbows, bend your knees, goddess pose. Breathe deeply here, shoulder blades on your spine, draw your lower ribs back toward your spine. Engage your fingers, engage your toes, rise up onto your tippy toes. Strong, strong, strong. And lower back down. Rise up, lengthen through your legs, lengthen through your arms. Extending your fingertips toward the sky. And bend your elbows, bend your knees, goddess pose again. Root down, rise up onto your tippy toes. Breathing deeply. Trust your strength. And lower back down. Rise up. Point your toes toward the long edge of your mat. Wide leg, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Bring your left hand to your right ankle. Spider fingers out in front of you in your right hand for a nice side stretch. Switch sides, left hand out in front of you, right hand to left ankle. And back to center, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reverse your swan dive, rise all the way up to standing. Hands meet together, and exhale, heart center. Heel toe your feet toward one another. Prep for Hanumanasana, squat. Bring your towel or blanket roll up the back of your mat. Place your heels on your prop. Root down. Strong legs, strong core. Inhale your hands high. Exhale, sit into skier's pose. Bus stop A, pause here if this is where you'd like to land today. If this is your peak pose, pause here. Peak pose of Hanumanasana and skier's pose, that is. Root down. If you want to continue, lower your hips toward your heels. Bring your elbows between your knees. Hanumanasana squat. Grab a block to sit behind your booty if that would help you extend and lengthen through your spine, shining bright through the crown of your head. Take this moment to notice what you need, whether it's a heart opener, hip mobility, or pausing and returning to your intention, or maybe a combination of all three. Continue to breathe. And then when you are ready, return to Hanumanasana, squat. Lowering your gaze or closing your eyes, returning to your intention. Take 2 breaths in Hanumanasana. Softly open your eyes and come all the way down to your sits bones. We're going to move through dolphin pose next. In our last sequence, I walked us through dolphin pose, so we're going to do that again. It's a really powerful pose that takes the strength and muscle energy of our entire body. And so play with dolphin pose. And if you need to take a break or take a sip of water, do that whenever you need to. Okay, let's do this. Set your props to the side. In dolphin pose, our forearms become foundation. All right, so we're rooting our forearms into our mats. So go ahead and follow along with me. I clasp my hands. I tuck my pinky into my hands. Root my forearms into my mat energetically. I'm drawing my elbows toward one another to really activate the muscle energy in my arms and my shoulders. Then I'll step my feet back behind me, lifting my knees off my mat, coming into plank pose. Shoulder blades on my spine. I'm gazing over my fingers. Then moving into dolphin, lift my hips. The top of my head comes between my elbows. And then I walk my toes toward my elbows. Rooting down, rising up. Using the strength of my core, my shoulders, I lift my right foot high and lower back down. Lift my left foot high and lower back down. Then walk my feet back behind me, coming into plank. My gaze now goes over my fingers again. Lower my knees to my mat and sink back into child's pose. Take 2 breaths in child's pose. And rise up. Let's do this again. We'll flow moving our feet between dolphin and plank, dolphin and plank, doing that about 2 to 3 times, flowing with your breath. You can choose the pace. All right, set your foundation, root down, step your feet back, and when you are ready, rise up, lifting your hips high, walk your feet toward your elbows, right foot high, left foot high, walk your toes back, plank, hug in, and again, lift your hips high, walk your toes toward your elbows, pause here, or lift your foot high, lift your other foot high, step back, into plank. Let's do this one more time. Hug in. Flow with your breath. Meeting in plank. Lowering your knees to your mat. And resting in child's pose. 2 to 3 breaths in child's pose. On your next breath, rise all the way up to kneeling. Meet in tabletop pose. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Offer your body a cat-cow variation. And rise up, stepping back into plank and meeting in downward facing dog. Inhale your right leg high, draw your knee to your nose, root your right foot into your mat. Pause here into lunge. Grab your blocks so they're right by your side. Root down, lower your left knee down to your mat. We're going to move through runner's stretch. I like to use one block on each side. I'm going to bend my right knee forward. I can walk my blocks forward as well. And then lengthen through my right leg, sink my hips back toward my left heel, and then rise up again. Moving back and forth, engaging my toes, breathing deeply, and meeting back, setting your blocks to the side. Root down, lift your left knee off your mat, heel toe your right foot to the outer edge of your mat, coming into lizard lunge, and move back and forth. Come onto the outer edge of your right foot, creating more openness in your hip. And meet back in lizard lunge, heel toe your foot to the center of your mat, root down, 3-legged dog, lift your right foot up and back. And inhale, knee to nose, lower your shin to your mat, coming into pigeon. Right knee to the outer edge of your mat, point your right toes. You can even walk your left foot back a wee bit. Lower your left knee down to your mat, have a block out in front of you. Root down, get really strong through your legs, through your core, your pelvic floor, your glutes, get strong, strong, strong. Then rise up, bringing your hands, fingertips to your block. You can pause here or bring your hands to your hips. We're using a lot of strength in our legs, our core, rooting down to then rise up, shining bright through the crown of your head. Take a deep breath and then soften, lower back down to your forearms, bringing your head to your thumbs or down to your mat. Don't completely slump. We're still staying fairly active here, mildly active in our bodies. Notice that your hips aren't moving from side to side, but are neutral and center. And then rise back up. Come all the way down to your sits bones. Knees are bent, kind of at a 90-degree angle. And just pause here and lift your knees high and move your knees to the other side. Kind of windshield wiper, moving back and forth, a little bit of hip mobility. Last time. And then transition back to pigeon pose. Bend your right knee, point your right toes, left leg out behind you. Get strong through your core, root down with your hands, rise up, three-legged dog. And draw your knee to your nose again. Root your right foot between your hands into lunge, lower your left knee. We've made it to our peak pose, our first side of peak pose. I'm going to show you where we're headed. What you'll want to do is grab your blanket or your towel, place it under your left knee, and then grab your blocks. I'm going to have us start in lunge. You can pause and watch where I'm going. But we have come to flying monkey, Hanumanasana, or another term for this is splits. Splits has always been an intimidating pose for me since I was little. I never felt like I could do it right or do it enough. Never felt good enough doing splits. And through my journey in yoga, I have realized that the full intention of my peak pose in Hanumanasana is beautiful and wonderful wherever I land, and it's going to look different than everyone else. So your splits are going to look different than mine, and my splits are going to look different than someone else's. And so as we journey into Hanumanasana, I encourage you to offer yourself kindness and compassion and play with the pose. Play with the journey into the pose. Okay, let's do this. So I like to start in kind of a kneeling position, as if we were doing or preparing for a runner stretch, kind of a lunge type pose. Rooting down. I like to have blocks on the side. So we want to root down, set the foundation, get strong through my core, and I'm going to bring my blocks right below my knee. Rooting down, I'm then going to step my right foot out in front of me and lengthen through my right leg. I want to micro bend in my right knee so I don't hyperextend. And we're looking not as much for flexibility, but as for using our strength in balance with our flexibility. And again, the strength and the flexibility is going to be different for you than it is for me. Then I'll work my right heel out. I kind of wiggle my foot out in front of me until my body naturally pauses. Here I want to notice that my hips aren't opening like warrior 2, but they're staying closed like warrior 1. And crescent lunge. Root down. I'm going to pause here. If this feels good for me, I'm going to pause here. If I want to try bringing my left knee back a wee bit, I can bring my left knee back a wee bit, hugging in to my muscle energy. So I'm rooting down into my foundation, my toes are engaged, hugging in to midline, and pausing here. At any point, I can play with bringing my hands to my hips, one hand at a time, maybe two hands at a time, woo, and play with that. You can also play with bringing one of your blocks under your leg to help support your leg just a wee bit. It's not going to be fully supported, so you still have to use the strength of your midline. And then I'll try playing with bringing my hands to my hips, hugging in, and at this point now I can think, where can I refine and where can I release out organic energy? Where can I ripple my energy back out to support, honor, bless those around me? And breathe. All right. Then gently, I'll use my blocks, hugging in. I'll bend my knee, slide my foot back, meeting my left knee, and sit back into kneeling. Yay! So I'll walk through this again with you, and then you can pause at any time and play as long as you want in Hanumanasana, flying monkey, splits. This pose also has a really great story behind it, so I don't have time to share it with you today, but I encourage you to go Google it, check out the story of Flying Monkey. All right, let's do this together. Come into your runner stretch pose, root down, get strong, root into your foundation, get strong through your legs, through your core, then begin to walk your right heel out in front of you. Kind of shimmy your heel out in front of you. Get strong, strong, strong. Stay tall through your spine. Breathing. Shine bright through the crown of your head. And then if you want to try bringing your left knee back a wee bit, go ahead and pause here. Now is when you can play with using a block under your leg, or bringing one hand to your hip, or both hands to your hip. Breathing through Hanumanasana, journeying into your highest intention of this pose. It's going to look different than mine. It's going to look different than everyone else's. That's okay. Soften through your eyes, soften through your jaw. Maybe lift the corners of your mouth into a tiny little smile. And then when you are ready, gently, softly exit this pose. Set your blocks to the side and come into child's pose to rest for 2 to 3 breaths. And gently rise up. You can leave your blanket where it is or move it to the side. We're going to flow through our second side. You know where we are headed, so let's do this together. Come into tabletop pose. Shoulder blades on your spine. Walk your hands out a wee bit. Root down. Step back into plank. Get strong through your core. Shoulder blades on your back. Rise up into downward facing dog. Inhale your left leg high. Even out your hips. Draw your knee to your nose. Root your foot between your hands. Pause here. Lower your right knee. Grab your blocks. Come into runner stretch, second side. Root down. Bend your left knee forward. Extend your left leg, sinking your hips back toward your heel, your right heel. And move back and forth, flowing forward and then back. Forward and then back. One more time. And then rise up. Set your blocks to the side. Root your hands into your mat. Heel toe your left foot to the side of your mat, left side of your mat. You can keep your right knee rooted into your mat or lift your knee off your mat, coming into lizard lunge. And open through your hip, coming to the outer edge of your left foot. And then back to center. Heel toe your left foot back to the center of your mat. Root down and rise up, 3-legged dog. And then come knee to nose, root your shin into your mat, pigeon pose. Right knee to your mat, root down, get strong through your legs, rooting into your foundation, strong core. Rise up, grab your block, hands to your block into pigeon pose. Play with bringing one hand to your hip, switching back and forth, or bringing both hands to your hips. Breathing deeply, rooting down to rise up, using the strength of your muscle energy. Three, 2, 1, and then lower down to your forearms. Bringing your head to your thumbs or all the way to your mat. And inhale, rise up, lower down to your sits bones. Your legs are at a 90-degree angle, and then go ahead and move through windshield wiper back and forth 2 to 3 times. Meet back in pigeon pose, bringing your left knee to your outer left edge of your mat. Root down, rise up, three-legged dog. Then draw your knee to your nose, lower your left foot between your hands, lower your right knee down to your mat. Grab your blocks, rise up into lunge. Okay, here we go. We're going to move into Hanumanasana, flying monkey, second side. Root down. Have your blocks right beside your left knee at any level. Get strong, rooting into your foundation, strong legs, strong pelvic floor, strong core. Really use muscle energy. And then begin to walk your left heel out in front of you. Maybe shimmy it out a little bit. If it feels good for you to walk your right knee or slide your right knee back a wee bit, you can. Pause here and breathe. And remember, you can stop at any bus stop. If you want to stop in runner's stretch, if you want to stop in bringing your left foot back or left foot out just a little bit, that's okay. You get to choose the highest intention of this pose for yourself. Rooting down, hugging in, rising up. So you might find yourself leaning forward a lot. Use the strength of your core to rise up, shining bright through the crown of your head. Hug in and play with different variations of flying monkey. Maybe bring your block under your leg. Maybe bring one hand to your hip and then switch with the other hand. Maybe bring both hands to your hips. And then when you are settled in Hanumanasana, activate your organic energy, active extension, and send the ripples of your organic energy back out. Don't forget to breathe. Soften through your eyes, soften through your jaw. And then when you are ready, gently, softly step out of this pose, bringing your left heel back towards your body, bending your left knee, coming into kneeling, lowering your hips toward your heels, and pausing, resting in child's pose. Take 2 to 3 breaths in child's pose. And gently rise up out of child's pose. Set your props to the side, and we'll begin to cool down. So grab maybe your socks or your sweater. Get cozy. Meet me on your back body, supine, as we prep for bridge pose. Bend your knees, root your feet into your mat, shoulder blades on your spine, root your upper arms into your mat. Robot hands, root down, get strong to rise up, lifting your hips high, bridge pose. And gently lower your hips back down to your mat. Grab your block. Let's do that again, but with supported bridge. Root down to rise up. Lift your hips. Place your block under your sacrum. Root down. Lift your right foot skyward. If you feel stable, comfortable, lift your left foot skyward. A nice variation of legs up the wall, supported bridge, toes engaged, fingers engaged. You can clasp the sides of your mat. You can close your eyes or lower your gaze. And then gently release your right foot down to your mat, followed by your left. Gently lift your hips, slide your block out from under your sacrum. Heel toe your feet to the edges of your mat, arms in T-pose, windshield wiper. Lower your knees over to your right, and then over to your left, over to your right, and over to your left. Transition into any other pose that would feel good for you. Maybe happy baby or four corner stretch, maybe a little bit of both. And then when you are ready, transition into corpse pose, Shavasana, extending your legs, feet mat distance apart. You can place a blanket under the backs of your upper legs for more support to your lower back, or place your blanket over your hips for more groundedness. Palms facing upward. Soften your eyes, soften your jaw. Release your shoulders. Release your hips. Soften the backs of your knees and the backs of your ankles. And let your foundation fully support you. You can continue in Shavasana for as long as you like, or follow along with me, letting your breath awaken your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes, stretching your arms overhead. And curl over onto your right side. And using the strength of your arms, rise up into seated, meeting your hands at heart center. Each of you are worthy of love and belonging, just as you are. I encourage you to go into your day offering yourself your intention and that same intention to those around you. From my heart to yours, namaste. Thank you. Thank you for joining me for Anytime Yoga. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.